Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Drew, and I've been an EDH player for about 3 years now. I started playing around 2011 in Innistrad, and I've mainly been a paper player, but recently, moving to college and everything like that, going to school, I moved away from my LGS. I don't have much time to play anymore, so I came to MTGO, and I found a deck that was cheap to make. It's really good, wins a lot. It's just one of my decks because this deck can be oppressive sometimes, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. It's a budget deck, and it's for Azami Lady of Scrolls. If you have been an EDH player, you probably don't like this card or this deck, but this was a deck that I've always really wanted to play in paper, but it's way too expensive. A lot of these cards online are way cheaper than they are on paper. So I made this deck for about 20 tickets, 22 tickets it cost me to make this deck. And I just wanted to share it with you guys, give you a quick little deck tech, and then I wanted to give you a gameplay video and show you how it works. So Azami Lady of Scrolls is a legendary creature, human wizard for 2 blue blue blue. Tap an untapped wizard you control, draw a card. So this deck draws a lot of cards and plays a lot of wizards. She is a very build around me general, but this deck can win without her. So, and one thing I like about this deck is the way it wins, which we'll go into later. You don't care about the board state at all. You don't care about life totals, you don't care about the board state. All you care about is living, keeping a counterspell or two in your hand to protect your board only. You don't care about other people's boards when you play this deck. You only care about your board. So, start off with the lands. Since it's a mono blue deck, we play a lot of islands, 30 islands, and then we have a couple of utility lands right here that I'm going to show you. Seed of the Synod is so Trinket Mage can find it. Minamo, School at Water's Edge is a cute little card. Sometimes you can pay an extra mana to untap one of your wizards. Some of these wizards are legendary, so you can draw an extra card. So it essentially says sometimes pay blue mana, draw a card. Temple of the False God, an EDH staple in my opinion. Strip Mine to deal with pesky lands, Guy's Cradle, coffers, stuff like that. Riptide Laboratory, return a target wizard you control to its owner's hand. This card enables a lot of shenanigans, and it can enable a 1 or 2 infinite combos in this deck. Reliquary Tower, this deck draws lots of cards, so you really need this land. And last is Mystifying Maze. Like I said, this is a budget deck. A non-budget option for this card would be Maze of Ith, but sometimes just playing this with the mana up is better sometimes because people don't want to attack you because of this, and then you still have a lot of mana up and they think you have a counterspell. Next are the Mana Rocks. These are the only 2 Mana Rocks in the deck, Mana Crypt and Soul Ring. Both just so Trinket Mage can find them. And Soul Ring is busted and Mana Crypt is busted. Like I said, online, this is a perfect example. Mana Crypt is $3 online, and it's $70+ in paper, so it's definitely a better option. Next, we have a bunch of the wizards. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to point out a few important ones. Patron Wizard is one of the most overpowered wizards. He pretty much makes your entire board be able to counter anything. And Æthermage is a wizard cycler, so you can use Æthermage to tear up our win condition, which I'll go over later. And then Trinket Mage, which I explained earlier. So being a blue deck, we play a lot of counterspells. 13 counterspells are in this deck. I'm not going to go over all of them, but pretty much counterspells are necessary because we need to protect our board and stop any shenanigans interacting with us. The one I will point out is Foil. This is a budget option. A non-budget option could be Force of Will. And also another card which is sort of budget-ish, but I didn't want to spend the 6 tickets that it was, or 5 tickets or whatever, is Pact of Negation. Pact of Negation is a very good card for this deck. Over here are utilities. I'm going to go over all of these. Evacuation is like an oh shit button, a reset button. Sometimes people deal with your board wipes happen, you don't have a counterspell, whatever. And then usually once people clear the board, they assess that you're the threat, so they want to go after you. This is a good card to just reset the board and protect yourself. Long-term plans is awesome. It's pretty much a demonic tutor for this deck. It says search your library for a card, then put it third from the top. So usually third from the top doesn't matter for this deck because you're drawing 6+ cards a turn, and it's instant speed. It doesn't show them the card, so this is pretty much an instant speed demonic tutor for this deck, and it's a very good card. Propaganda, just so you know, sometimes, like I said, people know what Azami does. There's not very many variants of Azami decks, so Propaganda can protect you a little bit. Ristic Study, we all know and love this card. I hate playing with this card in real life, but online it's way better because MTGO reminds you every time. Blue Sun Zenith, it's just a good utility spell. I can draw, 5-6 cards off this if they deal with my board and Azami dies, and I just have the mana. Also, this deck can create infinite mana, so this can be a win condition as well. Turnabout, just for when we're going off, this card can either untap all of our mana or untap all of our wizards to draw more cards. Cyclonic Rift, another reset button. Like I said, there are games where people will just go for you straight off the bat just because you're a zombie. That's just how this deck goes. But this deck, I feel, can deal with the 3v1. This deck has about, I would say, an 80% win rate. Rapid Hybridization, just to get rid of, sometimes stupid things on the board, like Elish Nord destroys this deck. Just for pesky things, and like I said, you don't care about the board, so putting a 3/3 is nothing. Mystic Remora is another underrated card. It's like a Ristic Study, but they have to pay 4, but it's only for non-creatures. So just another Ristic Study. And then we have everyone's favorite section, the extra turns cards. This is a way that this deck wins. Pretty much how this deck wins is you draw a bunch of cards, take a bunch of extra turns, and then win with our win conditions, which I'll go over in a second. So, Captor of Jingzhou. This is a card, another example. $300 card in real life, $3 card online. Temporal Manipulation, another example. Another couple $100 card in real life. I think this is actually 6 tickets online, but Walk the Aeons, take extra turn, it has buyback, sometimes you can afford it. Beacon of Tomorrows, just take an extra turn, shuffle back in your deck, and Time Stretch, which is the most overpowered one. I would add Time Warp into this deck, but it is 8 tickets online, and I just didn't want to spend 8 tickets when I already, for a third copy of this card, essentially. Next we have the Mana Doublers, Cage Sun and Gauntlet of Power. Usually when you have Mana Doublers, that's the turn you want to go off. You either want to stick one of these, protect it for a turn, or just draw High Tide and start going off. You just play a bunch of wizards, draw a bunch of cards, take a bunch of extra turns, and then win with one of the win conditions we have here. First is Paladin Kron. Creates infinite mana with these cards. Lots of times I take it, make it an infinite mana. I've had one of these in my turn, made infinite mana, had one of these in my yard, had Riptide Laboratory out, and I had Archaeomancer, so I got infinite turns from that. You can make infinite mana, and Blue Sun Zenith someone's to death. Paladin Kron is just a nifty card. This is a good card to have. Even just playing it, untapping your lands just for the 4/5 is good sometimes. Next is Psychosis Crawler. This is probably the most fair way to win, but still not fair because if you stick him and you can win and someone tries to kill him, you can just kill them in response. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. This deck draws 8+ cards a turn, so it's a very good card for this deck. And lastly are these two cards make the whole deck. This card is the heart and soul of this deck, Mind Over Matter. This card goes infinite with Azami. If you have Azami out and you play Mind Over Matter, you draw infinite cards. You can draw your whole deck. So, discard a card, you may tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land. So pretty much you just draw a card with Azami, discard whatever you draw, untap it, Mind Over Matter, draw infinite cards, dig through your deck for whatever you want, and then you find this guy, Laboratory Maniac. If you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So this is why I said you don't care about life totals. You don't care what the board state looks like. You don't care if there's a pillow fort deck. You're not trying to swing in and get in there. You just want to stick this guy and draw your whole deck and win, because he doesn't care about life totals. He doesn't care about the board state. So yeah, it's a budget Azami deck. Like I said, it's not a new revolutionary Azami deck. It's definitely not a fair deck. This deck, people do not like playing against this deck, but this is just something I wanted to get out there and share, make a video. It's a budget deck, like I said, 20 tickets I made this deck for on MTGO, and it's a very solid, good, competitive deck. This isn't my only deck. I have made 2 other decks that are very not like this at all. They're very fair and fun to play against. This is just my deck I whip out when sometimes you just want to play a spiky game, a competitive game. So yeah, I'll be back. I'm going to give you guys a gameplay video, but thanks for watching the deck tech, and if you want to watch the gameplay video, tune in.